Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. Like always, I'll be your host tonight, Mr. Dead Sleep. I have 3 scary stories for you from some talented authors on NoSleep Reddit. Just sit back, lay back, whatever's most comfortable for you, and enjoy. Okay, let's get started with our first story of the night, titled Doors to Hell. I want to preface this by saying that should you follow these instructions, you do so at your own risk. I will not be held liable or accountable for any disappearances that may occur as a result of this ritual. This is also not some party trick to show all your friends. I knew of a few people that have tried and disappeared as a result of not following these instructions. Finally, remember these words: you do not belong. Why would you want to look at hell? If nothing else, it will serve as an incentive to be a good human being. People have their own reasons. Mine was simply morbid curiosity, like Adam and the apple. Now first, you need a door. This door needs to be working, and by that, I mean it needs to fully seal, as well as having a working mechanism in place to ensure the door won't accidentally swing open during the ritual. If there are gaps under the door, then ensure they're no bigger than an inch, else abandon any attempts. Here's your shopping list: bone dust, black paint, the darker the better, a red candle, only for the wax, other candles do not seem to work, a small blood sample, a belonging of significance, maybe a jumper your grandma knitted you or a teddy bear given to you at birth. If you don't have a belonging of significance, you can use someone else's, although you're not going to get it back. And finally, a mirror. I know what you're thinking. How are you going to get bone dust? Well, I didn't say it had to be human. That's right, animal bone dust will do just fine. But humans do also work. Not that I condone it. The blood sample could be yours or someone else's. You need it for later so you can collect it preemptively. Doesn't matter whose blood. No unnecessary sacrifices, please. Now, the mirror. You won't be opening the door. You simply need to be looking at the door through the mirror. It's for your own protection. So let's say you have everything you need. Here are your instructions. You need to put your hand in the black paint and leave your handprint on the center of the door. Next, take the red candle wax and drip it onto the fingertips of your handprint. Don't worry too much if it isn't accurate enough. They aren't picky. Blow a little bone dust onto the handprint and draw a line with the rest before the door in front of you. Make sure it covers the entire door frame. More on that later. Next, take the blood and draw a ring around the handprint. I recommend using a paintbrush for accuracy. Finally, take the item of significance and put it next to the door. Once you are ready, pick up the mirror and turn your back towards the door. After that, you simply need to say, "It's open." If the ritual has worked successfully, the door will open and an entity will take the item. Do not turn around. You will see one of many creatures we call keepers. Keepers are grotesque and macabre humanoids with elongated limbs. I assume they are humans that have suffered millennia of eternal damnation. The reason why we call them keepers is because they essentially are able to open the gateway. They will want to escape, and they may attempt to climb through your door. The bone dust will act as protection. They, for some reason, cannot cross the line. If your line doesn't cover the doorframe completely, then you, my friend, have met your early end. They will be dragging you into their realm. They aren't known to speak, but you will be met with the overwhelming urge to let them in. Do not let them in. Remember, you are simply there to look and nothing more. If everything is successful and keep your sanity throughout, the keeper will eventually wander off and allow you to observe. Hell will appear different to everyone who looks in. It is a place of nightmares, and it will twist itself to reflect your darkest fears. Beware, as I said, you do not belong, and thus the living will attract the attention of more insidious beings. If they approach you, you must end the ritual promptly. How do you know when they are approaching? The first sign will be the smell of sulfur, rotten eggs or comparable. As soon as you begin to catch the scent, you must smash the mirror and close the door. If for some reason you are unable to close the door, then you have successfully opened a portal to hell, and thus you will either be killed, or if you're spared, you will be subject to a very malevolent entity. Once hell twists itself, it's likely you will see something that terrifies you. It is this fear that attracts them. Just remember to smash the mirror and then discard the pieces far, far away from where you reside. You may have closed the door, but the malevolent forces may still be able to climb through, although this is a very rare and thus only powerful entities may do so. Best to be safe. If you have done everything in this letter, then you will have peered into the epicenter of evil and come out unscathed. Let that glimpse of eternal damnation serve as motivation to become a better person. A further warning, however, each time you open a door, you make your presence aware to the evil that dwells below, and thus you may eventually become a target. Poltergeist activity may also begin as a result of this, and so I recommend burning sage after the ritual is completed. Also, this ritual is not to be completed by the weak-minded. They will prey on the weak, and they will stop at nothing to claim their soul. Okay, moving on to our second story of the night. The urban legend of the Prowler is real. Lock your doors and windows every night. In my town, there was an urban legend of the Prowler. Many of the old townsfolk had witnessed it. Obviously, me and my school peers didn't believe it, but since the age of 3 or 4, I saw my parents lock up the house with multiple locks each and every day. Their explanation to me was that it was a safety measure to keep the house safe from burglars. What struck me as weird was that our neighborhood was perfectly safe. It was well protected. I am 18 as of now, and I've never heard about a burglary ever in my town. The parents of the town tried to instill this habit in their children to never leave any door or window unlocked and never go outside after 11:45 p.m. The adults weren't allowed outside at the time either. The Prowler was supposed to be a tall, very skinny creature with long arms but no fingers, razor-sharp teeth, and glowing purple eyes. Allegedly, it could bite someone's head off, but didn't have enough arm strength or ability to grip things, that it would not be able to break through a simple wooden door and/or a window. Sounds pretty lame, I know. It was just a myth, yet everyone made a big fuss about it. The superstition was so popular that it was talked about among all the high school kids. Friends teased and tested each other, but no one has the guts to find out if the Prowler was real, or even leave a window open at night because they didn't want to take a chance, just in case it was actually real. I was the tough guy of my high school, you can say, the most fearless sophomore student in my whole town, so I decided to give this a try myself. Now that I think of it, I almost died because of my stupidity. My parents, or anyone's parents as a matter of fact, didn't leave their children home alone, ever. Just in case they left a door or window open or tried something stupid. They quote-unquote didn't want to risk it. At age 16, for the first time in my life, my parents would be leaving me home alone to go to another city. That too for like 3 days. Almost every person in my high school asked me to purposely break the rule and record my reaction, and confirm once and for all if the Prowler was actually real. I'm not ashamed to say that accepting the challenge was the dumbest decision I've made to this day. My parents left the house at 7 p.m. after giving me all the locks and demonstrating locking all the doors and windows like I was some kind of an idiot. I know they were just making sure I locked all the doors and windows, but I still cringed at this. When 12 a.m. rolled around, I opened the biggest window in the house, which was in my parents' bedroom. But I quickly closed it at 12:15 a.m. because I didn't have enough courage to do so at the moment. I chickened out. I was scared. What if it did show up? On the very next day, I made up my mind, charged my camera, set up an emergency space, It was my storeroom, stocked with bottles there, a phone, a giant knife, and some food to last me the night, just in case it comes and doesn't go away till morning. I opened the window to my parents' bedroom at 12 a.m. that night. I sat on the living room couch and watched some Netflix. After 10 minutes, I heard a knock at the door. I looked outside of the peephole. It was a person. I didn't open the door. He just simply told me he was passing by. He was going to his house. He saw my window unlocked and came up to check on me. I locked that window, apologized to him, and watched him leave. Then I opened the window back up and set up my camera there, with night vision activated. At 2:34 a.m., I heard a faint creaking sound. I wasn't really sure what it was, since at the moment I was more focused on the sound of the show I was watching, but it was loud enough to alert me. It came from my parents' room. I opened the door to the room, and there I saw two glowing purple eyes easily 9 feet above the ground staring back at me. I ran into the living room again, trying to make sense of the situation. The light bulb above me shattered into a million pieces, and all the rooms were in darkness. The creature shrieked, and I heard thumping footsteps. I quickly got into the storage room, locked it, and barricaded it with a bookshelf. It lightly scratched on the door and said in a deep, disturbing, distorted voice, "You invited me inside. Why won't you come out to play?" It chuckled as I heard it walking away. It was 2:38 now. I looked through a small crack in the door. It was still there. It just wanted to misguide me into opening the door. I sat there the whole night. Fortunately, I had all the food and water I needed, and a phone. I tried to call my dad, but the phone wouldn't ring. The Prowler started laughing. I started feeling dizzy from his laugh and passed out. I woke up. My phone's time read 9 a.m. I opened the door to see the living room in ruins, with fang marks on the television, couch, and all the other furniture. I checked the camera. It had recorded the creature entering my house. To say it looked terrifying and disturbing would be an understatement. I never saw it leave, though. The door of my kitchen creaked. I saw the clock in my parents' room read 4 a.m. My eyes widened as I came to the realization. It was all a hallucination to persuade me to step out of my storeroom. I made a run for it again and barely reached the door before the giant, morbid creature. I came out of the room when my phone's time read 12 p.m. and I could call my parents again. I called Dad before opening the door and told him our house had been ransacked, because if I told him what I had done, he'd surely never trust me with anything and might even ground me and cut my allowance. I opened the door and entered my parents' room to find the camera broken and the memory card inside it burnt. No one at school believed my story, and I sure as hell am not telling my parents about it. Since then, my parents have never left me home alone. Okay, let's get into our last spooky story of the night. This one is titled, "We Are Never Truly Alone in the Dark." We all know that feeling of unease when entering a dark room alone, the primal feeling of fear. Fear of darkness, fear of what lurks in the darkness, fear of the unknown, the feeling that mankind has used to keep us away from possible threats since the day we appeared on the face of the earth. Throughout ages of evolution, fear of the darkness has always stayed with us, and for good reason, too. Our brain then convinces us, reassures us that there's nothing in the dark room other than ourselves. We then proceed to attend to whatever business we have and exit with haste. Once we are in the presence of light, a sigh of relief is let out. The reason why some of us fear the dark, especially when we have no one to accompany us, is because the darkness takes our sight. Without sight, we cannot detect any possible threats and are left vulnerable. But there is nothing in the darkness with us, or so we thought. The truth is, we were never alone in the dark. Man was always aware of what lurks in the gloom, but we chose to forget it, for it made us feel safer. Now, with the advent of light-emitting sources like lamps, torches, and the like, the creatures of the dark have retreated back into areas untouched by man. However, in man's territory exist places suitable for their living in. Many who are foolish or unfortunate enough to enter their lair will never see the light of day again. Those who survive to tell the tale are not safe for long, and they will not live past 3 months before meeting their demise at the hands of the dark. No matter where the survivor is, they will crawl out of the shadows and drag them back to devour, provided the room is closed, at least semi-dark, and the survivor staying there for 5 minutes. Even if one does not directly encounter one of these entities, simply knowing of their existence will put one in danger of sharing the survivor's fate. Alas, when one knows they are marked, it is often too late. I found this out the hard way. All the signs thrown towards me, I ignored. At this point, I'd like to apologize to you readers, and I hope you will not be blind as me to fall prey to them. The first few signs that, in retrospect, were warnings that I was marked are as follows. 1. You feel cold whenever you enter a dark place alone, especially if you were never afraid of the dark before. 2. Shadows seem to ripple when you walk past them. 3. Nightmarish figures lurking in your peripheral vision. 4. Sounds coming from dark spaces in your home, in my case, also where I work, such as closets and wardrobes. 5. Your shadow lags behind you. 6. Increased hallucinations in the dark. These 6 signs I paid no heed to, brushing them off as an effect of working overtime too much. I suspected it to be the increased number of time spent gaming in the night. Little did I know that it was related to the story that a man told me at a bar. I was heading home after an exhausting day at work and decided to stop at a bar for some refreshments after 20 minutes of walking. So I walked into a bar and ordered their recommended drink. Sitting down at the bar, I slowly drank, enjoying every bit as it soothed my parched throat. Soon after, another man, dressed in a navy blue suit, stumbled in. He looked frightened out of his wits, as if someone or something had tried to attack him. His suit, on closer inspection, had a small opening stretching from his left pectoral to his right hip that looked like it was caused by a knife. He staggered to where I was, and through ragged breathing, asked the bartender to call the cops. The bartender did as he was told, looking at the man in concern. I ordered a glass of whiskey for the man after the bartender was done with the call, and pushing the glass into his hands, told him to drink. As the man drank, he seemed to calm down. I asked him what had happened, expecting him to tell me he had escaped a mugging. Instead, he recounted to me a tale of monsters attacking him in the dark alleyway not far from here. Passing the man's story as someone who wasn't in a right state of mind, I paid the bartender our share before tipping and left. I wondered as I walked, was the man slightly off, or was he telling the truth? He did look perfectly sane, with a bit of fright written on his face when he was speaking. I thought no more of it and went home without any detours. After that day, the warning signs came. As my work was in the tunnels of the subway, I was used to the dark environment. But as I said, the warning signs. The next day at work was uneventful. Well, almost. While maintaining the tracks, I heard something scraping against the rails. I involuntarily cringed at the sound. The sound was comparable to metal scraping against metal, but it was off somehow. I couldn't figure out what it was, so I just ignored it and finished up my work for the day. The following days got worse. The sounds happened more frequently, and once or twice I saw my shadow remain stationary while I worked. Every time I entered the subways, there were always puddles in the shadows. The shadows were rippling as if someone had disturbed it. As the days passed by, I noticed there was always a demonic, white-eyed being in the corner of my eyes. It was there when I worked, ate, and even taking a piss. Ever since its appearance, I could not get enough sleep. That thing in my peripheral vision seemed to get closer every time I turned off the lights to sleep, and occasionally emitting a spine-chilling screech. Not wanting it to get any closer, I went and got a nightlight for me to sleep with. It made sleeping a chore and had fitful nights because of it. Suffice to say, it was slowly driving me to the edge. My house was located in the countryside where it was swelteringly hot, especially now in the summer, but recently it's getting cold. My imagination had never been present when I was in the dark, but now it was cranked up to the max. Haunting visions of horrifying spectral beings looking like they came from the Earth's basement swum in my face at night and at work. Eventually it got so bad I requested a week off medical leave from my boss. I visited a couple of psychiatrists and related to them my experiences. They did some tests and gave me some medicine to take. I recall taking them as instructed by the psychiatrist. I stopped seeing them only for that day. I remember being so elated that all the phantasms were gone and going about my daily business with joy. The night after that day had my blood run cold. The specters returned with a vengeance. What was only 3 figures when I was in the dark became 9 ghastly apparitions. The demonic form in my peripherals had returned, this time with friends. All 4 of them eldritch entities could now articulate words instead of the usual primal noises. They were all closer than before each night, nightlight or not. The nightlight seemed to only keep my hallucinations at bay, which led me to my current scenario. There was a power outage in my part of the country, and as a result, all the streetlights outside are off. I am now in the toilet, armed with a hunting rifle and a silver dagger. The last hour had been a nightmare. Creatures have been pouring out of the shadows in my living room, crawling out from every nook and cranny where darkness was present. I emptied 6 rounds into the hellish crowd, stunning them for a few minutes at best to make it into my bedroom toilet. I made my way through the horde in the bedroom with my dagger, which had slightly more effect on the beings than my rifle. My toilet is being illuminated by the nightlight I'd purchased, powered by a portable charger. The peripheral demons are now manifesting in front of me in all their demonic glory, no longer confined to the corner of my eyes. The door's hinges are starting to come off as the creatures of the dark batter on it. I am posting this here while life still flows through my veins. I may not make it out alive, but I will not sit down and accept my fate. If I'm going out, I'm going out with a bang. I sincerely hope none of you will fall prey to these predators of man, and remember this. Creatures of the dark returned to their shadowy homes when the first humans utilized light against them. Okay, that was our last spooky story of the night. I hope you enjoyed yourselves like I did. If you haven't already, I hope you give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more weekly spooky stories. Time for me to go, but I'll be back before you know it. I'm Mr. Dead Sleep. Good night.